Hey everybody, thank you for tuning in. My name is Rodrigo Delpech, your host, and today I'm gonna introduce myself. In case you don't know me, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about myself, my story. I'm originally from Argentina, from Buenos Aires. I live in Las Vegas, Nevada right now. I've been bartending for 20 plus years and flaring for a little bit longer than that. I first started flair actually. I started doing flair before bartending. I was 15 at a time. My brother will go and practice in the backyard in our house back in Buenos Aires, and I would just look through the window, check the moves, and then whenever he would leave, I would just go and try to practice those moves. He didn't know that I was spying on him and trying to practice. So when he would come back and try to go and practice with those bottles that were broken, he didn't even know it was me. He didn't know that I was practicing. A lot of people know that story. What they don't know is we didn't talk to each other for a while. So I couldn't go to him and be like, hey, can you teach me? So, we had a couple fights and we were like, well, we weren't talking to each other for quite a long time. So I would just had to go and spy on him to try to go and practice the moves. I couldn't get the help, so I had to figure it out myself. That's why I broke a lot of bottles. He didn't know. He found out way, way later than that, probably a couple of years back when I told him this story. But, I was 15, so I was just like trying to pick up a couple moves. Back then, the flair was kind of like Cocktail, the movie Cocktail type of thing. Couple moves, that's it. Then after that, I started practicing with balls, trying to juggle. Try to learn the pattern of the three bottles with tennis balls, and I was getting decent at it, like very basic couple moves, but trying to understand. I was just a kid while I was still going to school, and then in the meantime, I worked at a store that it's a toy store in Argentina. It's called El Mundo de Juguete. It's like Toys R Us in here. So I was like 15, 16. I would just go there and work for the holidays so I could just go and make some extra money, help my mom. We grew up in a place where we didn't have much. It was we had sometimes no power for months. We barely had something to eating once a day. If we were lucky, a couple of t-shirts, one pair of shoes, but you know what? Like sometimes when I think about it, that was probably I don't know if I would say the happiest time of my life, but I was very, very happy, with what I had. I didn't need much. I had my friends, my family, so I didn't care. It was just, for me, it was all good. It was fine. Then my brother moved. He went to Europe. He went to Spain for a while. Then he came back. When he came back in 2000 and he was gonna go compete. And actually, before that, now that I remember, when I was 15, 16, I went to watch a tandem competition. There was a tandem competition in a place called Sahara Continent in Recoleta, Buenos Aires, and where most of the flair bartenders that you all know from Argentina, they all worked there at some point. And so I went to see this competition. I knew one of the guys that was going to compete. And when I got there, he was like, my partner didn't show up, so you're going to have to go with me. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, don't worry about it. Just chill, relax, and enjoy it. Every mistake that you can possibly make, I'm going to make it. So you just go and have fun, enjoy it. Just go and do it, no big deal. And I was like, sure, like I didn't even have time to think about it. It was like maybe an hour. So he gave me a shirt, a tie. He's like, put that. I show you what we're going to make. No big deal. Let's go have fun. So I was like, okay, cool. And, I will have to, I actually have to thank him for that because Gonzalo Figueredo is his name that he used to work there, because he was the perfect partner for that competition. Otherwise, I would have been so scared to go on stage, especially at 15, 16. I've always been very shy, even till today. So even people don't think I'm shy, but yeah, I'm very shy. So he was perfect for me because he was very outgoing, and he just went, did his thing. Don't worry about it. Go have fun. I had fun. I still have a picture of it. I'm trying to get a video to try to remember. It was a good time for sure. Like I remember I went back to my house. I couldn't wait. At the time we didn't have, cell phones and none of that. So I couldn't wait to go and tell my mom, man, hey, just like I went, I performed on stage. It was definitely a great night. Then when my brother came back from Spain, he was gonna compete at a flair competition. Before that, we went to a restaurant where we watched Quest for the Best Bartender in the World. I think it was from 1999. And I saw that. I saw Alan Mays, Bill Long, Ken Hall, Boogie, Toby Ellis, and they were the big dogs at the time. I remember seeing Alan Mays 4 bottles, 1 on the head, and I was like, oh my God, I want to do that. And Bill Long doing double over the shoulder to stall, a move that till today is very hard to land. And he was doing it before the 2000, so it was crazy. So we watched the video, and I was like, I want to do this for a living. So my brother started practicing for the competition, and I was working at a factory. I was putting a clock on time for a gum display in a kiosk. So it was funny because it was like maybe like half of the size, and I would just go and start putting it on time. And then I got good at it, so I started doing it with my right, and then I started doing 2 in 1 hand. Whoever knows me knows that I'm competitive and I challenge myself all the time. So that was me challenging myself, trying to get better at that. And the reason why I'm telling the story about that is because I tried to get the day off to go see my brother, and they told me that I couldn't go. So I quit so I could go see him. And after that was probably, it was the first time I quit a job to do something like that. Definitely not the last time, but it was a great decision that I made because I realized that this is what I wanted to do for a living. So I went, watched the comp. I was super excited, and I was like, this is what I want to do. When's the next comp? In a month. Cool. I'm going to get ready for it. So I started practicing for that competition. I had a month. And remember, until then, all I had, it was basic moves, like things that you would see at the movie Cocktail. And I started to prepare. There was a couple of guys from Argentina, big names, that were going to compete that month. And the guy who helped me get ready, Matias Supan, he was very encouraging. He's like, you're going to get ready, you're going to go and beat them all. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go beat them all. I didn't. It was horrible. But I don't even remember the round, to be honest. All I remember is after I was done, I was like, I want to go and do it. I want to go and do it again. This is great. I practiced a lot. In less than a month, I was doing 3 battles, 4 battles, creating my moves. It was very easy, if I can say that. It was easier than nowadays to create a move, because Flair back then, it was not what it is now. So it was a little bit easier to create a move. You could just whatever you would do, pretty much, it was like, oh, cool, it's mine. And nowadays it's crazy, the level of Flair and how far Flair went. It's hard to create new stuff. You can still do it, but it's definitely harder. However, it was hard to come up with new techniques. There were not that many techniques when it comes to Flair, when you compare Flair back then to what it is now. Now you have a lot of master classes, people teaching everywhere, online, tutorials online, YouTube and Instagram, everywhere. So back then you had nothing. So you will have to go and come up with stuff on your own and, learn by mistake. Now it's so easy. You go and take a class, and whatever we were doing in 2 years, people can learn now probably in a couple months, even less. So anyways, after the competition, I started practicing hard. That year was great for Flair in Buenos Aires, so I was just like going everywhere, competing around Argentina. I got ready. Then my brother, my brother called me, and he moved, like he went away after his competition. Then he called me. He's like, hey, do you want to come to Ibiza to work? I'm like, no, I'm okay. Which I'm very happy I say that, because I was a kid. So I don't know what I would have done with my life, when you have all the party there right in front of you. Even though I was always very disciplined when it comes to practice, and very determined when I wanted something, you never know. So I'm happy that I say no at the time. So I stay in Argentina, practice. Then he moved to Cancun. He was in Cancun, and he called me. He's like, hey, do you want to work there? You want to work with me here? I was like, sure. So I went, and I started working it was just on spring break. It was a month. Then went back to Argentina, kept on, practicing, competing. Then I went back the following year. Before I went to work for the next spring break, my brother was already in Vegas. And when he was there working at Shadow Bar, somebody from El Paso, Texas, went to his bar, and he's like, hey, I want you to do that. I want you to do that in my bar. Do you want to come work for me? He's like, I'm okay, I'm in Vegas. But if you want somebody, my brother does the same thing I do. He's like, cool, tell him to come, work for me. So he gave me his phone number. I called the guy, and within a week, I was in El Paso working. I didn't speak a word of English, not that I do now. And I barely knew the drinks. It was just like, but I didn't care, I since I was a kid, I would just go and take chances. So I took a chance, and it was fun, for a while. Then we went back to Cancun for another spring break. It was, for, again, like a month and a half. It was a little bit harder this time to work there. We had a rough time, but it was a great experience. We were a bigger group. We were like 6, 7, and living all in a small 1-bedroom apartment. The guy that we barely knew opened the doors to his apartment for us and helped us. He was great. And so we would just, what we did is work when we could, and then practice. It was interesting because when I was in El Paso, we crossed in El Paso, Juarez, in a minivan, just riding a minivan. But at the time, the control was not as tough as it is now, so they didn't even ask us for our passports. So it was actually funny. It was 4 of us. When we were like, okay, like we crossed in a van, and then we took a bus to Mexico City, and then another bus to Cancun. It was quite a long trip. So we were like, okay, somewhere somebody's gonna ask for our passports, to get the stamp. They never did. So when we got to Cancun, we didn't have the stamp. So technically, we were still, for them, we were still in U.S. in the U.S. in El Paso, and they didn't know that we were in Mexico. So we started working, and we stayed there for a little bit. And the long story short is, when you didn't have the visa at the time, we didn't need a visa, so you had 90 days before you would leave the country without getting in trouble. We were getting close to those 90 days, and we didn't have the stamp, so we had to go. We were like, okay, let's go and cross the border so we can go and get the stamp. So we went and we crossed in Belize. And we didn't know at the time, like there's a part where it's a Mexico, Belize, and they have a piece of land. It's a like 200 meter, 300 meter thing that it's called nobody's land, tierra de nadie. And so we left. We tried to go to Belize. At the time, Argentinians needed a visa to go to Belize. So we couldn't go to Belize. We tried to go back to Mexico. They're like, you can go back. You need to go to Belize to get a stamp in order for you to come back. And we're like, we can't do it. They won't let us go in. We were stuck. Like, we were literally stuck in that land, and we were like, what we're gonna do? Again, we were kids. So we had our bottles. We went, recorded a couple moves. We were just like, whatever. And we had to go and pay some money, give them some tips so we could go and get a stamp so we would not be illegal in the States without being in the States. It was a fun time. It was crazy. We would go and we would go and do shows when we were in Cancun after we went back from Belize. We would go and put shows right in front of nightclubs because we weren't working, so we had no money. We would go and start flipping bottles right in front of nightclubs, and we would get the managers to come outside and be like, hey, do you guys want to go and perform? It's like, yeah, sure. If you let us go, go in for free, get a couple of drinks. He's like, sure, done. So we'll just go. Like we actually did a couple of shows at Coco Bongo, which is very famous in Cancun. We did a couple of shows just to go and go in and have fun. It was actually, it was fun for us. Like we were doing flair because we love flair, and we got to go and enjoy ourselves. Then after that, I went back to Argentina. Kept on practicing, kept on competing. I had surgery on my knee. In the meantime, I broke my knee, so I needed surgery. And so I went to a competition in Florida, I jumped the stage and I hurt my knee again, so I had to get surgery. Before that year after I came back from Cancun, they let me compete in Vegas. They let me compete at Flip for Tips 3. It was in 2001, December 2001. I flew to Vegas for the first time, being 19. Try to go see the guys at Carnival Court. Sometimes they will let me in. Sometimes some of the bartenders is like, nope, you can't come in. I was like, I don't want to drink. I just want to see you flare. No. Well, my brother would talk for me. I couldn't say that. So I went compete 3-4 tips. I was getting ready for the finals. I showed my routine to my brother. And I was like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. He's like, do you want to win or you want to show them what you have? I was like, I want to show my flair. I don't care if I win. He's like, then just do it the way you just show me. I was like, okay. It's like, just wondering if I want to win, what should I change? And he's like, don't do 5 and 6 because you're dropping. But I was like, no, I don't care. So I just went and did my 5 and 6, landed my 5, couldn't land the 6, and I finished in second because I had 13 drops. If I would have listened to my brother, I would have probably won because I had 10 drops, if I'm not mistaken, between 5 and 6 bottles. So I didn't care. I wanted to show my flair. I was happy. I was excited to compete against the big names here in Vegas. So I really didn't care. I was 19. And then when I went back to Argentina, when I got my surgery, before that, it was, in Argentina, you don't make, even then, like, you wouldn't make much bartending. So my brother was like, I gotta say, like, my brother was, I probably wouldn't done it if it wasn't for my brother, because he helped me a lot. He did the help that I got from him, not only in flair and showing me, moves and stuff and guiding me, but also when I was in Argentina, like I said, and I wouldn't make that much money bartending on the weekends, he was like, do you really want to do this for a living? I'm like, yes. He's like, okay, I'm gonna pay you just like if you were bartending on the weekends. Just don't go to work, just practice. He's like, just promise me you're gonna practice hard. So that's what I did. That's why I practiced back in the day, 16 hours a day, 24 hours a day. I would be an entire day practicing, no kidding. I would just go to the school where I used to practice, go and open the school with them, practice all day, chill for a minute, keep on practicing. Then at night, they would leave. I would go downstairs, close the door, stay, practice all night until the very next day when they would go and open the school again. I would go and open the door for them, give them the keys, and then just go home, sleep for a couple hours, go back at it. I did that for quite some time. I had to make, some hard decisions at the time when I was practicing and I needed to practice hard for a competition. A competition was coming. I would go and practice, and I had to go and make a call. There was one of my very close friends' birthday, and I missed it because of that, because of my practice. He got mad. Like, we didn't talk after that because he was hurt and he didn't understand that that's what I wanted to do for a living. So it's, something that I had to do at a time. And if you know me, you know that when I think of something, when I want to do something, I just go for it. I give 110%. I don't like I'm very passionate and I'm obsessed with it. So I wanted to practice. That's all I will go and do. And, I had to make that call. So I did. but I don't regret it. I made the decision for a reason, and just it's the way it is. When you want something, I would see all my friends, all the other bartenders, they would just come to me and they're like, "Hey, why are you doing those kind of moves? Like, oh, your talent." And I'm like, "No, I'm just practicing. I practice when they were partying on the weekends. They will all go out. In Argentina, you will go out until 6, 7, 8 in the morning. You could be in a club until 6, 7, 8, 9. After parties, I was in the practice room. So that's the difference. Like, you want something, you just go for it. You go and practice, and that's the way it was. Before I was practicing in that school, which is called Cocktail Group, they were my family, pretty much, and they became my family. Before I did that, I took a class at a different school called Universidad Cocktail, which everybody, like a lot of the biggest names, they studied there. So I took the class when I was a kid, like 15, 16, if I'm not mistaken. And so I took the class, couldn't bartend. Then I bartended once for my brother. He had a bar in a club, and because I was a kid, I had no idea what I was doing. So somebody saw, like a customer, they could see that I had no idea what I was doing. So they asked for a Fernet and Coke. And I was like, sure, Fernet and Coke. And the guy's like, can you shake it for me? I was like, sure. And you can imagine the mess I made shaking a Fernet Coke. But it was fun. Lesson learned. He still drank that. He had to. I was like, cool. There we go. No bubbles for you. But it was fun, Then when I was at this school, there was a guy that actually helped me a lot. Not because he wanted to help me. He didn't know he was helping me. But again, if you know me a little bit, you know that when you tell me that you cannot do something, I'm going to work twice as hard to get it done. And so this guy, he would just go, and all the time he would bother me with, hey, are you going to go take another class? You need another class. He just wanted to sell me a class. And I was like, no, I don't think so. Well, if you don't take a class, you never go anywhere. You never leave the country. You're gonna be a nobody. I was like, cool, no problem. And then months later, he was in Cancun asking me for a job. He needed my help to, work in Cancun. And, I have to thank him, because if it wasn't for him, maybe I wouldn't work as hard. But when he said that, and he would just make it a living hell for me in competitions, it was all about their school, and I just went to a different school, so I was a traitor for them. So it was twice as hard for me. So it only meant that I had to work twice as hard as everybody else. I didn't care. If you know me again, you know that I'm just gonna go and do it. I'd rather do that than stay with them. But it was quite an experience leaving with 18, 19 to go work, go to Cancun, try to speak English when I didn't understand anything. I couldn't tell you where the bathroom was. And even though in 2003, when they decided to hire us from Rio Casino in Las Vegas in 2002. Our working visa took about 9 months, so we were putting a lot of things together, paperwork. We actually made a video resume. We made it, I think, it was like from 2001, 2002, all different competitions and videos. We made it with another friend of mine, Adriano Marcelino, and we got a tandem visa for the Rio. So we got that visa after, like I say, 9 months. It took a while. They took a chance. Again, I didn't speak a word of English. They didn't care. They're like, we want to give you a chance. So right before we moved to Vegas, I got married. And I got married the day before I flew to Vegas, actually. And we got here. We started doing the orientation for the casino, doing all the trainings. And I didn't understand anything. And then at the same time, like it was a hard time because they were like, hey, you need to learn English. So when you talk to your brother, you're going to talk to him in English. And I'm like, he's my brother. We speak Spanish. I can't. Like, I feel uncomfortable talking to him in English, which I don't know a word of. So I can't communicate with him. So I'm going to talk to him in Spanish. And all my friends were from Argentina in here too. So, it was very hard for me, and they made it very difficult for me. And again, if you know me, I'm stubborn. So you tell me, hey, do this. Back then I was 21. I was like, nope. Like, I would just go and do the opposite. So I got married, and we had to apply for her visa to come to the States. And the lawyer was like, don't do it. If you do it now, it's going to look catchy. You got to wait a year and a half. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to do that. And we talked about it, and we were like, after like a week or two, we're like, let's take a chance. I'm not going to wait that long. And they're like, well, if that happens and if she doesn't get the visa, then you're going to have to wait a long time. And I'm like, if she doesn't get the visa, I go back. I don't care. And in less than a month, she was in the States, in Vegas with me. It's, in my head, there was no chance that they will say no. So we did it. Then we worked with Adriano at the Rio for less than a year. Then, just being here, we started competing a lot more. Not always, but I flew a couple times. And then by the time I got here, I was already afraid to fly. I've always been afraid of heights. So it made it very difficult for me to compete. I was afraid to compete. Well, not to compete, but to go to Roadhouse, go, Germany to compete. I couldn't do it. I couldn't even, just the thought of getting on a plane to go to another city here in the States, I was like, I don't know. And for a very long time, it was hard for me to do it. My brother told me, he's like, dude, if you want to compete, you better start flying. Otherwise, just do something else. Something that you got to stay in the same city, because you can't do it. So I had to suck it up and start flying. I would take pills and everything just to fly. But I did it. And then after 10 months, we took a chance and we went to Tampa, Florida. Went to work at another casino. They paid for our visa there, so we moved there, and it was a completely different experience. When we got there, the manager was like, you don't speak English, it's okay. The moment you realize you're gonna need it, you're gonna learn. And that's it. That's all he had to say. That's when I started learning a little bit of English. I had a couple guys working, Levi Donaldson, Colin, and Daniel, and they will help us a lot with that. And little by little, I started learning. I watched Friends, the TV show Friends. That's how I learned, because I would watch that show over and over, so I knew what they were saying, and that's how I would associate words, and I was like, oh, that's what that means. And a couple words a day. A friend of mine, when I first moved to Vegas, he told me, he's like, if you want to learn English, learn one word a day, and you see how everything changes sooner than you think. And I was like, whatever. And he was right. It was an experience, but like working in Vegas with no English, it was rough, definitely like challenging, but I wanted to do it. I wanted to be here, so I didn't care. So far to get there, even when I was practicing in Argentina before I came to the States to work, it was challenging. I wasn't working, so I wouldn't get bottles. We didn't have the plastic bottles that we all do now. So I would just have to practice with whatever bottle I would find on the street. I would go with my mom. We would go with a cart, and we would just go around the neighborhood trying to get bottles so I could go and practice. And I practiced, 3, 4, 5 bottles with 3 different type of bottles. It was, the only thing I could get, so that's how I was practicing. I didn't care. It was just, it was fun for me. When you wanna learn something, when you wanna do something, it doesn't matter what you have. You do the best with what you get. And right nowadays, we're so spoiled that when we go to a competition, we're like, whoa, we like this type of bottle, and so they did everything for us to be able to use it. It's a competitor choice. If they're not sponsoring the competition, shakers, we have all like 20 shakers, all the same. If not, we go and get more. We have the plastic bottles. We're blessed that we have a place to practice, a garage, lights. Back then, there was nothing. We practiced with what we had, and that's it. Like I will practice with different shakers. You couldn't nest one, into the other, because different shapes, it didn't matter. Wine bottles, like weird shapes, you would practice with that. We practice with champagne bottles. You wanted to practice, so that's what you get, and that was fine by me. One of the best spots for me to practice when I was in Cancun, it was at the beach, and I would go practice no matter what. I would go when it was raining, and it would make it just so hard to practice. Raining in the sand, I didn't care. I would just go and practice. It was so easy to go and do the same routine when everything was dry and clean, but it was actually, challenging to practice. But I would just go and and do it anyways, and it made it easier for me to go and perform on stage. But it was just like, this is what you can get. Go practice, and that's it. We will go and do it. It's simple. Now we're spoiled. After Tampa, the visa, it was about to expire, and they didn't want us anymore. It was they were always changing, and we were 9 guys behind the bar. They wanted girls. They changed everything. So we had to figure out what we were going to do. So we were going to go to Biloxi to work at another casino. And so they were willing to help with the visa. But at that time I was like, yeah, I was lucky to be in a couple of websites. I started to do good in competition, so my name was out there, and I was like, I'm just gonna go apply for a green card. Usually you have to wait 3 to 5 years, they say. It was less than 2 years, but I was like, I'm gonna take a chance, and I applied for the green card, and it took a couple months. The lawyer wasn't the best lawyer for visas. Maybe he was a great lawyer, but he was not an immigration lawyer. So when he sent all the paperwork, they told me I had to do some tests. So I went to a clinic. I did that, took the results to my lawyer, and he never sent them, right? So again, I was very lucky, even though I put my mind into it and I work hard. If I want something, sometimes you need that luck, you need that extra, and I had it with the green card. I applied for the green card. I did all this. He never sent the results. So the immigration agent, instead of saying green card denied, he took a chance. He called me from his cell phone, and he's like, hey, I understand you're applying for a green card. Do you still want it? And I was like, yeah, of course. He said, well, you got to send the results. If you don't send them by Friday, I'm going to deny your green card. That was like a Tuesday. So I called my lawyer right away. He's like, oh, no, I sent it. He didn't. He sent it overnight, and they got it on Thursday. So this agent, he gave me his phone number, which he shouldn't. And he's like, call me on Friday. So I called him on Friday, and he's like, yeah. It's like, I received it. You're good to go. You have the green card. So, it was a scary time because I didn't know if I was going to get it after that. But I took a chance. I like taking chances. If I take a chance, I don't look back. I just try to do what I can to get it. And, I got lucky that I got the green card. And then from there, we just started moving a little bit around Orlando, Hollywood, Florida. And it was a good experience learning English little by little. It took a while. I never went to school for it. Not once, other than school in Argentina, but never took like a private class or anything like that. I just learned with music and watching TV. But it took some time, but it was after a while it got a little bit easier. But guys, we've been going on for a while. I have a lot more to tell you about me, and I have some good stories I'm gonna tell you on my next episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'm gonna see you soon.